What to say? What's going on, you guys? Back with another good book review for you guys. This time, 5 philosophy books for black teenagers. And actually, it's not even for teenagers, for anybody, you know what I'm saying, for all of us. You can be adults too, you know what I'm saying, check it out. But these are great, some 5 philosophy books that I would recommend, you know what I'm saying, after you've done the reading from my last suggestion, and you want to take it to the next level, you want to get into the philosophical thought. Here are 5 books that I like. First up, Foundations in African Thought by Dr. Kamalu. Yo, this is a great book, classical book. This was his first one that he did, and I got this book back in, I think, 2000. So this goes into the foundation thought of, how African people, their worldview is, and how they perceive their philosophy, instead of a Western thought. It's completely different, and that's one thing you learn as you start to study African philosophy. You start studying African history and all that stuff, culture. You will see that Western culture is completely opposite of African culture. And so in this book, he goes into back to ancient Egypt, Kemet, and he's explaining to you their philosophical views on the spirit, on the creator, Ma, on their understanding of the universe. And then he comes up and he also shows you some of the new philosophy from like the Igbo and from Yoruba, the sciences and understanding. And one thing that I want to point out real quick, I say the page, quote him. He said, if we start with Western science as our frame of reference, it is not easy to show African beliefs to be a coherent system of thought. All right, so think about it. You know what I'm saying? We usually, our frame of reference is Western philosophy, Western ideology. And so therefore, we can't see African philosophy and science as being coherent, is what he's saying, as being something that's useful. So yeah, this is a great book. Check it out. It's definitely a good read on philosophy if you want to start getting into understanding African philosophy. Foundations of African Thought by Dr. Kamalu. All right, so let's go to the next joint. And this one is from the master teacher himself, Dr. Theophilo Benga. Oh my gosh, I love this book. This is Ancient Egypt and Black Africa. Yo, this joint is nice because he breaks down philosophy itself. He breaks down Greek philosophy. He shows you that the Greeks studied in Kemet, and they said it themselves that they studied in Kemet. And he shows you, he quotes the Greeks. So he destroys this whole idea that Western philosophy started with the Greeks. This is the evidence right here. And the great thing about this, like I said, the great thing about this book is that he shows you, from the old kingdom, the new kingdom, and the late kingdom. He shows you the philosophy from there. He's quoting from the pyramids, not the pyramids, but from the slabs that they left behind. And he breaks down the word philosophy, and he shows you that it's a foreign word in Greek language. It's not a Greek word, because Dr. Theophilo Benga speaks Greek, reads Greek. He's fluent in Greek and Latin. That's the crazy thing. So that's why when it came to, if you ever seen any of his lectures, he breaks down Greek perfectly, and he explains how the Europeans, white people, they're misreading it on purpose just to make it, seem like the Greeks were smart and all that. But no. So this is it, this is a great book to get, and you got to have the kids, our children, reading and open their minds up to understanding that the Greeks, they learned from the African people, and then they went back to Greek to start their stuff. So Theophilo Benga explains that in detail in this book. He shows you that the sages in ancient Egypt were the philosophers, And the words, for sage was translated over into Greek as the philosopher, the one who loves wisdom, came from out of Kemet. But yes, so get this joint and you're going to love it. And it's a great philosophical discussion on philosophy and the development and history of philosophy. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3, back to Dr. Kamalu. This is his second book, Person, Divinity, and Nature. Yo, I love this book. Yo, Dr. Kamalu, thank you. Yo, I got this book. Actually, I got this book because brother Kobe Obatale Cambone had said, get this book. I was watching one of his lectures, and he was like, yo, get this book, and he was quoting from it, and I picked it up. And at first I just thought, it was going to be a boring read, and it just looks like it's going to be a boring long read, but no. Oh my gosh, this book is great. He goes into the African ontology, the nature of being, and he's looking at it from all the African perspectives, because as I said in the last video, and as we understand now today, it doesn't matter if you're on the East Coast, the West Coast of Africa, North or South. You understand there's only one African culture, and they all have the same philosophical thoughts, even though they just speak in different languages. So that's what he shows. He uses Airway, he uses Yoruba, he uses Igbo, he uses ancient Egypt, he uses the Congo, Congolese language, about the Bantu. He shows you their beliefs, the Dogon, and he's showing you all together. And because our history, our development, our Renaissance in African history, our Renaissance, we didn't have a Renaissance. It was interrupted by the Arabs and the Europeans. He points out that you have to piece them all together to understand the African ontology, the African nature of being. You have to look at one system, look at the Dogon, look at the Airway, look at ancient Egypt, Kemet, look at the Bantu, and put them together, and you'll see that they all link and they fill in the gaps where things are missing at. And that's only because we didn't have a Renaissance. The Europeans interrupted our development when it comes to philosophy. So this book, Personal Divinity and Nature, great book. Like I said, he goes into talking about the ontology of the African person. He explains how in ancient Egypt, they say the person has 7 souls. All right, in Akan, they say we have 5 souls. He goes into it and explain it. You know what I'm saying? So this is a deep book. You will enjoy it. All right, that's number 3. Number 4. Come on, I had to put her on the list. From the Grandmaster teacher herself, Dr. Mariba Ani, Let the Circle Be Unbroken. You have to get this book. Look how thin it is. This book is thin, it's lightweight, but this book is heavyweight. I'm telling you, this book is heavy, it's deep. When I first got it, I was like, but when I started to read it, I was like, oh my gosh. Yo, this book is lovely. Yo, she goes, like it says, let the circle be unbroken. She's explaining that our spiritual connection to Africa and our ancestors can be reestablished, even though we went through the Ma'afa and the whole mistreatment, Jim Crow era by the Europeans. Yo, we have the ability to reconnect with the ancestors, to reconnect with our African selves. And and that's what she's getting. She gets into in here when she talks about it. And one of the things she says, she points out is that every time you pour libation, every time we do libation, we are reconnecting with the spirit. You know what I'm saying? We reconnected with the spiritual world. And that's a concept in Western philosophy, they don't understand. I'm gonna just quote it real quick. Every worldview generates a set of metaphysical definitions and can only be explained or understood using those definitions as reference points. The European and African worldviews are so different in such crucial aspects that explanations of African worldview that uses European definitions are blatantly absurd. So man, it is great. She's breaking down, breaking down the worldview between the two cultures. European worldview, African worldview are two different worldviews. If you don't understand that, you would never understand it. You would never understand why you can't comprehend the African understanding of the world as long as you're looking at it from a philosophical point of view of Western culture. As long as you keep reading Plato, Descartes, and Socrates, and Hegel, and you think these guys are the greats, you would never understand African worldview. All right, and it was another one real quick that I wanted this. She gets into. Oh, she says, spiritual realities are timeless. That is, they are not limited by ordinary categories of time and space. Thought is associated with spirit, matter becomes ontologically related to eternal. That's on a whole different level. You see, we forget that in Western culture, they don't look at spirit. They haven't accepted spirit in the spiritual realm as being real. But our ancestors understood the spiritual world is real. And we talk about a people of a culture that's over, 500,000 years old. And we could prove it. There's a book, Black Genesis, I should do a review on that, by Robert Bivol, that proves that ancient Egypt, the Kemet culture goes back 50,000 years. So you're looking at a culture development that understands the human world, the physical world, and the spiritual world. This is a great book, philosophical book, man. That's why I put it on the list. It's a great read. It's a pretty good read if you understand African history. You understand the Mayaka, the slave trade. You can pick this up and just start reading it and understanding it. But definitely put it on your list and let the circle be unbroken. Yo, last book. The Hosea. Yes. My brother Mulana Karinga, The Hosea. Yo, what can I say? This is a great philosophical, ethical book to read and to have to discuss with your children. You can just turn to any page and just pick something and just discuss it with your children. All right. He took the Proverbs from over 5,000 years ago, from our ancestors, put them in a book. And it's easy to read. It is like I said, it makes a great conversation, and you can just talk to your children about it and have lessons with them from the Hosea, from the book of Ptah-hotep. Just a real quote. Check this out. If you wish your conduct to be perfect, to be free from all that is evil, guard against the vice of greed for material things. It is a grievous sickness, and there is no cure for it. Can you not have conversations with your children about that? What does that remind you of? Right there. I think automatically came to my mind, Get Rich or Die Trying. 50 Cent. This whole hip hop culture that we have is based, they basing it on greed and the need, the accumulation of material things, and showing you, look what I got. You know what I'm saying? And that's the ideology that we get because we're thinking like the Westerners, like Europeans, instead of thinking like our ancestors. One of the things that this reminds me of is that the first, European invaders, explorers, when they went to Africa, like what's his name, De Brazza and Rene Auguste Cali and the guys they first came there. If you read their works, they tell you that among the children, they talk to each other in proverbs. Do you understand how deep that is? The children, when they play around, they play their games, but sometimes they would sit and when they had conversations, they would have conversations in proverbs. They didn't. They didn't understand it right away. You know what I'm saying? Once they understood the language, when they got to, getting around understood the language, they would look and they saw kids talking to each other in proverbs, using proverbs. Sit and think how deep that is. Sit and think how deep thought the children were on that level, that they talk and reply to one another with proverbs. That is crazy. That is crazy, but that's the level, the intellectual level our people were on before the invasion, before the Europeans destroyed our culture. So put the Husserl on the list as one of the best philosophical, ethical books that you could read, and you could have discussions with it. So yeah, the Husserl. So that's my top 5 books that every black teenager should check out. Every black kids need to check out. All black, whether you're a teenager or whether you're an adult, check them out, read them. You're going to enjoy them, and promise you, they're eye openers. All right, that's it. I'm out.